Calcers. So I am going to go through the mini quiz from 4:30. So we've got, on a certain day, the diner has a total number of food orders given by time. So we've got the differential function. This is going to be number of orders per hour. That's my rate, where T is the number of hours. All right. So we've got, write the equation for the line tangent. We need two things for an equational line tangent. We need a point and we need the slope. So my point is 1 comma, and then I look at my setup and it tells me it's 1 comma 32. And then my slope is the derivative, which I'm given in my setup. So my derivative is going to be, so my slope is going to equal 48 over the square root of 3 times my t, which is 1, plus 1. So that's going to be 48 over the square root of 4. So 48 over 2 is 24. So my slope is 24. So my equational line tangent is going to be y minus 32 equals my slope 24, x, or in this case t, minus 1. All right. So I want to use it to approximate the total number of food orders given by time t equals 2. So, and I'm going to just change that y to f because that's what we're going to be evaluating. So we've got plugging in 2. So we've got f minus 32 equals 24 times 2 minus 1. All right, so we've got f minus 32 equals 24. I add 32 over, and I get f of 2 is approximately equal to 56. All right, so now find f double prime of 5. So that's the derivative of this equation. So I'm going to just rewrite the derivative. df dt equals 48, and then because it's on the denominator, I'm going to write it as 3t plus 1 to the negative 1/2. All right, so we can just do straight up chain rule. We don't need to use any product rule or anything like that. So the second derivative, f double prime of t, is going to equal, take the negative 1/2, bump it down, so that's negative 24. I keep the inside the same. Then I subtract 1 from the exponent, and then I'm going to multiply by the derivative of the inside, which is 3. All right, so now I plug in 5 for my t, so f double prime of 5 is going to equal negative 24 times 3 times 5 plus 1 to the negative 3/2 times 3. All right, guys, so for AP Calc, I would leave that like that because that's a numeric answer. There's nothing that you need to evaluate further. But just a reminder, if you have a negative exponent, that's going to move it to the denominator, power over root. So this is going to be 15 plus 1, that's 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 to the third is 64, but it's a negative, so the 64 is going to be in the denominator. And then we've got negative 24 times 3, that's negative 72. See how much time I'm wasting doing this? So don't do this on the AP. And I can divide top and bottom by 8, so it would be negative 9 over 8. All right, my units are, well, it's number of orders per hour squared. So orders per hour squared. Orders per hour squared. That was really messy writing. But what does this mean? It's the rate of orders. It's the rate of the rate. right? Because it's the second derivative. First derivative is the rate of orders, and then this is the rate of orders. All right, find an expression for f of t. If we're given the derivative, df dt equals, and I'm going to write it as 48 3t plus 1 to the negative 1/2. If I'm given the derivative, I need to find the antiderivative. All right, so I'm going to multiply by dt. So df equals 48 times 3t plus 1 to the negative 1/2 dt. Now I have the variables separated. And now here's the deal. I would need to use the chain rule. Remember, I just did it up there if I were taking the derivative. So if I'm taking the antiderivative, then I'm going to need to use substitution. So I'm going to just change the color of my pen. U equals the inside, so we've got 3t plus 1. So it's not x this time, it's t. dt equals 3. I'm going to multiply by dt, so du equals 3 dt. So dt is going to equal 1/3 du. Okay, so we're going to substitute in. So we've got u to the negative 1/2. I'm going to substitute in for dt, which is 1/3 du. So 48/3 du. And we're going to integrate that. We're going to integrate df. All right, to make my life easier, guys, though, 48/3 is 16. So I'm going to just write that as 16. All right, so f equals, add 1 to the exponent, u to the 1/2. Dividing by 1/2 is like multiplying by 2. So 16 times 2, 32. Don't forget, plus c. All right, at this stage of the game, I can plug back in what my u is to get it in terms of my variables that I was dealing with. 32, 3t plus 1 to the 1/2 plus c. So now I want the final equation. What is f of t? So I have to plug in my initial value. My initial value was back up at the top, 1 comma 32. So 32 equals 32 times 3 times 1 plus 1 to the 1/2 plus c. All right, so we've got 4 to the 1/2. That's the square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 32 is 64 plus c equals 32. So my c is going to equal negative 32. So I'm going to plug that in right to that c. So my equation is f of t equals 32 times 3t plus 1 to the 1/2 minus 32. That is my equation for f of t. Now, if I want to solve and find what my value of f of 8 is, I'm just going to plug in 8. 32 times 3 times 8 plus 1 to the 1/2 minus 32. Now, guys, remember, if this is the AP, you can just box that in as your final answer because it's a numeric answer. F of 8 equals, all right, so that's 24 plus 1, that's 25. Square root of 25 is 5. 5 times 32 is 5 times 32, 160 minus 32. So we've got 128. F of 8 equals 128. And that is my final answer. Total number of food orders taken at time t equals 8.